how you use them.
T-minus 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
All right, good morning, good morning, good morning. I got some coffee. We're here on a morning in May 2024, and I have a little case study for you. Instead of a company, I have a case study through some numbers because you were asking about it and you asked this question. You said, hey, Biz Doc, last week, actually 2 of you asked this question almost word for word, and a couple other people said, maybe you could dive into this. Why do headlines about jobs do they not match what my circle of friends and coworkers are feeling? In other words, jobs report, another record month, Bidenomics working. Whether you love or don't love the president, whether you want somebody elected or not, we're just going to look at the facts from our federal government. And people are asking the question, you know, all this headlines and all the stuff I'm seeing on the news and whatnot, it is not lining up with what my friends and I think and feel. Why is that? I have an answer, and it's behind the stats, and it will make sense to you. Throw your friends, share with them. I hope you're over your Cinco de Mayo hangover so that you can get back to work and look at real data and then make real decisions about your life, your job, and the election and who you vote for. It's all connected. Be a good citizen. Here we go. So, first of all, let's start with some facts. Headline. There have been 40 months of 100,000 jobs created in America. 40 months, it's 3.5 years going back to the bounce out of COVID. Well, wait a minute. Behind those are federal stats, by the way, they announced by our federal government. Then if you look, I counted 32 times they revised the number down in the coming weeks after that. So 100,000 jobs created, woohoo, 330,000 jobs created. A couple weeks later, we've recounted, it's 261. Those things are happening, but they happen quietly, and then the mainstream establishment media doesn't really talk about that. They just put the revision out there like sliding a note under the door, right? Exactly. And in the footnotes, since August of last year, we have been losing full-time jobs in America. So since August of 2023, we've been losing full-time jobs, so the net job creation has been part-time jobs. Why? People need second jobs because of inflation. We're going to show you that. So the first thing is the job headlines aren't what they seem because full-time job losses and revisions down after big headlines. That's a fact, not my opinion. This is a fact of what happened. Go back, look it up. Next, headline, stock market. S&P 500 is having a great 2023, led by the Magnificent Seven. Who the hell is the Magnificent Seven? Well, it was the 7 stocks that did phenomenally good on the stock market. NVIDIA, Meta, Facebook. There was a bunch of them out there. Microsoft, it was a Magnificent Seven. Tesla had a great last year. Not having a great this year, having a great last year. Off and running. And layoffs. Layoffs trim expenses, and stocks tend to go up. When people say, you know what, I'm going to lay off a bunch of people over here, market goes up. Wait, don't they lay off if a company's not doing good? Well, sometimes they also lay off to trim expenses because they see the future coming and they want to keep the profit where it is, so they lay off a bunch of people. Stocks love layoffs. The stock market loves layoffs, as long as you're not heading down into a pit. If you're just restructuring with the economy, the stock market usually goes, good move. All those people and expenses are gone. Never mind, employment just went up in those cities, and those people are having a crappy time. Doesn't matter. Stock market likes it. So the headline, the stock market's going up. Then stock buybacks. That's when companies make big piles of cash and buy some of their own stock off the market, so there's fewer shares being traded on the market and the price stays stable or even goes up. So profits that were made last year, there was a lot of stock buybacks. So the stock market is having a great year. So in other words, even though a lot of people are talking about things right now, if they go look at their 401k or the IRA, they're probably okay or up over the last 2 years. So retirement savings haven't been hit by a big market crash, so that's actually a good thing. But in the near term, why are people feeling like all this good news is not matched by their personal situation? Let's go from facts to charts. First, take a look at this. This is a very busy chart. But this goes back to 1940 all the way up to 2024 right here. These are the consecutive months of job growth. As you can see in this country, it goes up and down, and these gray bars are the recessions. A little skinny one there, that was a COVID recession. The big fat one here, that was the big old, financial market crash, 08, 09, and recession there. So this shows just how steep the job creation is. But take a look at what happens. The job creation always comes up to a peak and then it drops rapidly back down to a more meandering level there at the bottom. You see that? So this is the big news we've been having about job creation. But you have to remember, job creation is not net job creation like more people working in the country. I'll give you an example. After COVID, tons of restaurant workers and theater workers and amusement park workers, all those people that were in entertainment, they were cut or laid off or furloughed. Why? Because COVID, go inside, lockdown, don't go out. All those restaurants died. Then they all got rehired into the same jobs. But our government, the Biden administration and our government announced job creation. Wait a minute, that would be like this. I get divorced from my wife, which I would never do because I love the Biz Doc babe. Hey, sweetie. And let's say I get divorced. And then 3 years later, I discover that was a terrible idea. That was bad. My children are sad, things are bad. And I go and remarry my same wife. And I say to my kids, hey, look, wife creation. I just created a wife. No, mom's back. Nothing happened. You furloughed her, you laid her off, you basically divorced, but now she's back. It's the same mom, Dad. What are you, drinking? No, I'm not drinking. I made a wife. You didn't make a wife. That's what happened. All those restaurant workers and amusement park workers and public workers and stadium workers and Disneyland workers, they all went back to work, largely in their same jobs, at hotels and all the places that were most dramatically hit by the lockdown that started in 2020 and didn't alleviate till the end of 22. We start all come back out to play. Those weren't job creations. They were job resume, but they were counted as job creation. So part of this big thing here is what we call bullcrop. It's not there. Those are return jobs. So guess what? Part of the job creation wasn't really happening. Get it? I'm not making this up. You can go look at it. Job creation happens when a job is created. And if you furlough somebody and it's a layoff and you build a job tomorrow, the government says, hey, you made a job. But in reality, we should have adjusted it for COVID and saying, wait. How many of these people are just going back to work in the job they had until all those cuts and all the terrible things happened during COVID lockdown? Get it? Get it? Read the footnotes. So the first thing is jobs, job reports. Not all true. Next chart, the stock market. Take a look at this. So here's the COVID, COVID, right? Where the stock market did that. And then it came back up, 22, a little soft 23. There's the Magnificent Seven, 2023, all of this. NVIDIA and all those companies that made everything go good, and right now we're here. And here we are at 5,187, pretty much sitting on an all-time high, because look, it was 3,000 before COVID. We were below 3,000 before COVID, and now we're over 5,000 afterward. This is why IRAs and 401ks are doing okay, but people are looking at it right now and saying, I don't think life right now feels pretty good. So we go to inflation. So we talk about the stock market. So jobs, there's some BS in there. Stock market actually is good. So 401ks and IRAs should be doing good. Now let's look at the inflation calculator. If in 2020, and these are readily available inflation calculators, and this one comes from a federal government website, and you had $1 you spent on a Coke at 7-Eleven in 2020. In 2024, the Coke cost $1.21. That doesn't seem much for a Coke, but what if everything that you buy was 20% more expensive in 4 years? Actually, this is 3.5 years because we're only just barely into May of 2024, a little under 3.5 years. Take a look at that, 20%. That means if your electric bill was $400, now it's $480. If your car payment was $500 and then you got a new and different car with interest rates, it's probably even more than that. Get it? Look at your cable bill. If it was $100, it's probably $120. Everything in there. And don't even talk about groceries, because I know a lot of you are saying 20%, that's baloney. I'm paying 35% more on groceries. Correct. So this is an average of everything. So basically, inflation has done that. So wait a minute. I don't think my income has done that. Fantastic. Let's look at that. We have another chart. So when inflation decreases, prices do not decrease. Let me explain that. When they say, government says, inflation is down, that just means it stopped growing. It doesn't mean that all the prices have gone down. Some prices do, like oil will go down, and thank God, fuel will go down for your car, travel will go down because the fuel's less for the airlines, and if you live in the Northeast United States with heating oil, thank God, winter cost for energy goes down. So oil will make some things go down, as well as plastics and a lot of things that are also coming out of that barrel of oil. But overall, the other prices don't magically go down when inflation goes down. They kind of stay at this new price where they are, and that is the net effect here, this $1.21. So a few things can go down, like gas and things, and that helps a lot. But overall, the net effect is permanent. So when inflation goes down, it just means the pain is stopped. It doesn't mean the cancer is cured. Get it? That's where we're at. So now let's go to another chart. So let's go to housing. CNBC, Anna Teresa Sola. She's an economic writer for CNBC, and just a month ago, March 12th, actually 2 months ago, March 12th, she wrote this: home buyers need to earn 80% more in 2020 to afford a house in this market. It's not just due to high rates. 80% more. Why? This is a quote from her well-researched article where she interviewed Zillow and housing economists, and I thought this was a really well-done article with a lot of facts and attribution to good sources that know what the hell they're talking about. So I've chose to put Anna's article right here. While the typical household in 2024, today, makes $81,000 a year, up from $66,000 in 2020, so the averages, wages have come up. Wages have not kept up with housing costs. The interest rate and the price of the house is like a double punch in the gut. Since January of 2020, remember we looked back at the inflation since 2020, so we're looking at the same period of time. That's what Anna's looking at. The typical mortgage payment on the typical home in the U.S. has nearly doubled, said Orphe Devogny, a senior economist at Zillow. And if I mispronounce that name, I'm terribly sorry. It says, nowadays, potential home buyers need to make about $106,000 a year in order to afford the typical home, an 80% increase from January 2020. From 66 to 106, because inflation killed the asset price. When I say killed it, I mean it went nuts. It went up, and then the interest rate went up, which makes the price of the money, the mortgage rate, that went up. Compound it together, whammo, 80% to the poor consumer. See this? This is the kind of articles you read and say you're not crazy and it's not you. Crap's happening. So now this is what happened to mortgages. So now let's compare this, wages versus inflation. Wages is the blue line. So wages, gee, Tom, again, what are we talking? 2020 to 2024. So I'm using the same calendar. No tricks here, folks. We're using the same calendar timing. Wages 2020, right here in blue, to 2024 today, March 2024, 1 month ago. By the way, this comes from our friends at Statista, and it was their analysis of 2020, 2024. So thank you very much, Statista. Copyright their data and their chart, but we're using it to show you. So now, here is inflation. During COVID, it actually, things dropped down. A lot of things dropped. And so wages were above. So, but then what happened here? This is the inflation effect. All of this area in here is the difference, the cumulative difference. And some of it has come back now, but look, inflation is coming back and wages have been drifting down since September. Remember I talked about August, we were losing full-time jobs? There it is. It's right there in this chart. It's there. Don't let the headlines on the mainstream establishment media fool you, or the BS that's coming from Washington, D.C. on headlines during an election year. Full-time jobs are going away. There it is, dropping down here. Why are wage growth dropping? Because mom's driving the frickin' SUV on the weekend for Uber as a second job trying to make a buck because inflation is killing the family. See? See there? See the pinch? It's coming back together again. So the cumulative effect of wages versus inflation, this goes right back to what Anna was talking about in terms of housing, only worse because she's talking about the amazing increase in the price of housing and the increase of interest rates, which increases the price of the money you borrow to get that more expensive housing, which is an 80% impact on housing, and it's a 20% impact if you just look at the basket of goods at the grocery store and electricity that I showed you on the inflation chart. Making sense here? This is the pinch. So we go next. So what's the issue? You got all this stuff. So why are people thinking life is not as good? You add all that stuff up, and guess what it is? Today, when the consumer says the economy is bad, and then Washington says, no, it's not. The stock market's up, and we're making lots of jobs, and inflation is coming down. Guess what the consumer really means? Affordability. Life is less affordable than it was 4 years ago, and it's freaking bad. It's bad. It's a pinch. It's a permanent, tough, difficult, right in the ass pinch. There it is. They're talking about affordability. So don't let the government fool us. We need solutions this year, whoever we elect for president, to impact total affordability of living in the United States. That's what the issue is. Now, what is the path forward? This is my opinion. This is the Biz Doc talking about having a few decades on this planet Earth and having some ideas. Cost of living needs to stabilize. Inflation goes down, so prices stop going up. So stop the pressure, stop the pain. Can we get inflation down below 2%? Jerome Powell, who's the head of the Fed, is trying to get, through his interest rate moves, keep inflation down and keep it going down. It's down to 3, now it's come back up to 3.7. It's like he's going downhill in a car with no brakes, bald tires on an icy road, and hoping he doesn't hit the tree at the bottom. He's trying to get inflation down. Sorry for the metaphor, I think you understand what I mean. He's sitting there driving, trying to figure it out. We need more housing supply. More housing supply means prices will decrease. Part of the problem is we got houses in the wrong places. People were leaving California. People were leaving California and descending on Arizona and Texas and Florida, and now the demand, all those people coming in, made the prices go up, and trillions of dollars were basically digitally printed by your government that artificially made asset prices, houses go up, part one, and then all those people moving to those areas, demanding those houses, drove those houses up as well. So we need more housing supply. We need townhouses, apartments, good quality apartments so that workers can afford to live, and more single family houses, and then I'll get to jobs in a minute in those areas. More housing supply will help the price decrease, especially in places like Texas and in Florida, where all those people were moving to get away from blue states that were basically doing bad things to their life, and I'll just skip that list. But the fact is, people were moving from blue into red states. Forget your politics, facts. The migration is going on. So, and by the way, places like Austin, Texas, they actually overbuilt. So right now in Austin, Texas, prices of housing have come down 20%. So people are getting some relief in that city. Then deflation of raw energy. What I talked about, when oil and gas go down, fuel cost goes down, travel cost on airplanes, because that's a lot of fuel usually, goes down, and electricity goes down. So oil being under control and down, drill baby drill, and making the United States a surplus and exporter is good for you as a consumer because it makes the prices of things go down. Next, we need wage growth over time. To get wage growth, you need full-time job growth. Those stats I just showed you are from your government. Nobody took those stats and invented those charts. That is data coming out of your government, but the mainstream and establishment media is not painting the picture that way, and it's not a hard picture to paint. You merely say, guess what? Tea bag, ice, warm water makes iced tea. You don't have to go out on a limb and make any wild prognostications. It is real. Full-time job loss is causing the wage to come down, inflation coming back up. You saw the pinch. We need wage growth over time, which comes with full-time job growth. And that also comes from people getting educated in the right things like STEM. So people you know that are going to college, if they're going to go study art history and go out and protest in front of a major Ivy League institution, they deserve the frickin' tear gas, in my opinion. You know what? Go back and study something that's useful, and let's get these full-time, jobs in America where we can demonstrate the power and resilience of the American citizen and the American workforce, and go do it. And beyond that, we need manufacturing jobs to be here. We need sensible policies to be here. We need taxation control. But we need all those things to work together to get wage growth over time of real full-time jobs, because it may sound sexy. Hey, mom can drive the SUV a few hours on the weekend on Uber. If she wants to do that, that's fine. But right now, thanks to inflation, she feels like she has to have a side hustle. And that's bad. When you feel pushed and pinched into that, that is not the way it is. The path forward, I believe it's two things: cost of living stabilization led by these things, and wage growth over time driven by full-time growth and sensible education. Go get sensible degrees from schools. And by the way, there are articles out right now that there are lower cost universities that are giving you just as good of an education as the Ivy League. So pick the finger you like the best and show it to the Ivy Leagues, and go someplace that you can afford. Skip the student loans and put yourself in a position where the people in the next generation that you can influence, your sons, your daughters, your cousins and friends and things like that, push it. And in the meantime, find training. You can get certifications on time online and do things to put yourself in a position. But we need the full-time jobs here in America. And by the way, when you take immigration and just flood across America, then guess what happens? A lot of the basic part-time jobs also start getting demand taken up by all these people that just arrived here. So we'll just skip further analysis on that and put it, if you have an excess supply of workers, your tax dollars are going to be used to give them free shit, and those people are going to be taking part-time jobs that maybe college students and other people that already are here could be using. Think about it. Anyway, that is why your friends and you are all talking about why they don't think the economy feels as good as the headlines and our leaders in Washington say we should be feeling. Look them in the eye and say, it's affordability, damn it. It is the economy, damn it, but it's my personal affordability, and I want to see a multi-point plan to put this country back on track to help me out. So I hope all of that came together and was educational. There's a couple case studies up on the screen right here from the Biz Doc archive. I hope you may like those as well. And until next time, I'm Tom Ellsworth, the Biz Doc, and I hope I left you better than I found you.